with ourselves. And Eddie Jones, like just a sort of generally dislikable character, has been at it again with some unbelievable comments about Ireland. It's like this sort of stuff on. I mean, look, building on, like, you know, everybody remembers the scummy Irish stuff from last year. Like, it's just at some point or another somebody's going to have to take this guy in hand. Like, these comments are absolutely outrageous. I'll give you a bit of a flavour of them here from the Irish Mail this morning. Jones says stuff like, Ireland are the best side in the world, very well coached and drilled side, and of particular things that they do well in a game. I mean, this is typical Eddie Jones guff. Outrageous commentary. Such a slur.
I'm very, very happy. It's always my favourite day of the year. The new year doesn't kick in until Eddie Jones is in front of a microphone. So yesterday was January 1st for me. My 2019 has finally got up and running, because without Eddie Jones, all of our lives would be significantly more boring. We would care a little bit less about the Six Nations. We'd still care about it, and we'd care a little bit less about playing England the weekend after next. So I'm happy that he's back. I'm happy that he's in front of a microphone, and I will be a sad man the day the RFU decide to get rid of him, or if he walks.
To stuff like, to beat Ireland, we need to compete brutally in all contest areas of the game. Like, these kind of slurs on our nation. I mean, it's up there with Martin Johnson, you know, and the red carpet business, like, really, when you think about it.
Do you think that he actually goes out of his way to be snide and sarcastic? I don't think he does. I think it's just the way he is.
I think there's a bit of the, do you know, like, in a far less successful way from Eddie Jones' point of view, there's a little bit of the Alex Ferguson's, Jose Mourinho's about what he says. Like, he says that and everybody kind of says, oh, there's a deep message now and there somewhere. And he could potentially say the exact opposite, and everybody would be saying, oof, he's, you know, the mind games. In fact, that's exactly the essence of the piece, that the mind games have started, even though he's falling over himself to pay compliments to the Irish team. You mentioned January 1st. Like, in some ways, some of his quotes yesterday, it might have been April 1st. He's talking about he may potentially, in a World Cup year, by the way, start to play 9 forwards in a game. So he feels that there's two things to it. One, he might play Jack Noel, who's a back, as a forward, and then as an addition to that, he might well play 9 forwards. I think he's panicking, to be honest with you. Like, results have obviously not gone his way now. They had a decent November series, clearly, but I do think he's panicking. Like, it's World Cup year. If this stuff was any good, he'd have been doing it 2 years ago. He had said he had sampled it at some point with Japan, that he had brought in he'd given a forward a backs jersey and he played him in a slightly different way or whatever it was. But I mean, like, that's Japan, who are generally trying to upset one of the larger nations. I think that if he's introducing this, if he's serious about this idea, and it's quite possible that he ain't, but if he is, in a World Cup year, I think he's panicking.
Really?
Yeah.
I fear a massive England backlash this calendar year, whether it comes in the Six Nations or whether it comes in the World Cup. I really do think that we've been very quick to write off the Eddie Jones era, and there is a sting in the tail of his tenure. With good reason, don't get me wrong, with good reason. Like, I do think that they've had their injury troubles over the past couple of years. Like, let's not forget the base they came from going into last year's Six Nations. We were talking about England as an extremely good side, one of the world beaters, looking ahead to 2019, potentially the best chance one of the Six Nations sides had of winning the World Cup. Now, 18 months later, things are looking significantly different. But if you put them between now and September, I think there's enough time for them to get things back together. Dylan Hartley's obviously injured, not in the squad. The two Vunipolas.
Speaking of likeable characters.
Yeah, speaking of likeable characters. Well, that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of dislikable characters in that camp, and quite often dislikable characters are very, very successful sportsmen, and that has proved to be the case quite often with great English rugby teams as well. Like, the two Vunipolas being back, Billy Vunipola being back for England is obviously a humongous asset to them, something that they didn't have in last year's Six Nations, pretty much for all of last year's Six Nations as far as I remember, right? So, the whole face has changed for me, or has the potential to change. I think England, we've got to a stage where we used to hate Eddie Jones because they were successful. Then we went into a stage 12 months ago of laughing at Eddie Jones because he wasn't that much of a threat to us. We're in big, big danger of continuing that trend of laughing at him, whereas he is still a very, very dangerous man to us. And I think
it
makes life more interesting.
Yeah, look, it's fair. You know, life would be a bit more boring without him. I'd be easy with that.
Well, if you're happy with a boring life, then good for you.
I love the way you've made that analogy, or that stretch. So that's the Eddie Jones story. We're going to get into a little bit more on that in just a little bit, and plenty more interesting stuff obviously coming up between now and the end of the show. We've got the sports pages that myself and Eoin are going to get stuck into in just a few minutes' time. Plenty to get into there as well. Lots of good stuff across the back pages this morning. We've John Walters on the show this morning, and we're really looking forward to that. Off the ball co-commentator John Walters, of course, and Gary Breen as well to preview the weekend's Premier League. And there's plenty of other interesting storylines as well, including all that Bielsa stuff during the week that we'll put to the lads as well. Spying on the Dobbs was a story that will probably ring a bell for some astute viewers this morning who would have been paying attention 7 or 8 years ago when Rory O'Connor of the Irish Independent wrote a story about what the Dubs were getting up to at early morning training. So we're going to get the inside scoop from the man who got the scoop, and that's coming your way at just after 8:30. We're going to talk rugby as always with Quinny on a Friday. That's about 10 to 9, and then myself and Eoin are going to pick our winners and losers of the week just after 9 o'clock. So that's what's on the agenda.
One man who I'm not sure is going to be in the winners or losers section this week, because he's a bit of a winner and he's had a bit of a loss as well yesterday, is Jerome Quinn, who works for the Higher Education GEA and produces video content for them. He was at the UCD game yesterday, and he was a bit of a loser in terms of one of his equipment, but he was a winner in terms of capturing one of the most satisfying ways you can capture a goal. Here's Conor McCarthy hitting the back of the net. I'm not sure. So there's two ways that you can score an unbelievably satisfying goal. One is that sweet spot off the post where you can hear the clang of the post.
A couple of penalties in the Derby Southampton game during the week that clangered backed off.
Penalties are a beautiful opportunity. Yeah. The second one is this, when you hit the camera and the camera inevitably gets broken. And it's funny from a Premier League perspective, but I think when it's actually kind of closer to home, I hope we can get a new camera basically.
I think a drop kick.
Continue to see these goals.
Most satisfying goal for me is a drop kick.
Oh, well, yeah.
Drop kick back then. You know, really, as a player, I wonder, do you get that satisfaction of hitting the camera? Yeah, half volley, yeah.
Yeah, he did say that in the middle of the game, Conor McCarthy, one of his teammates, had said to him, you've hit the camera there, mate. But he did confirm that he's not going to personally pay for it, but that UCD should sort him out.
Very good. Nice goal. Going to get stuck into the back page now and let you know what's happening right across these newspapers this morning. We're going to kick off with just a bit of a recap of the Irish Daily Mail that I mentioned a little bit earlier on. Jones, Ireland, the best team in the world, this outrageous slur from Eddie Jones this morning. O'Neill back to Forest Trail. This is the photograph of Martin O'Neill back at Nottingham Forest and aiming to bring Roy Keane with him as well. And Martin fires a warning to make over fixtures by Philip Quinn. This is Martin O'Neill saying that he had picked too many away tough friendlies and for Mick not to do the same. Dublin's Wannabes make O'Byrne Cup poison chalice for Westmeath is the other one of the major stories of this morning that's across the top page there as well. A picture of the new Westmeath manager Jack Cooney on ahead of the O'Byrne Cup final this weekend, and whether Westmeath should go with a full team and get chastened by the Dublin thirds, or actually are they better off just putting on a second or third team and getting beaten anyway.
First team.
I'm 100% on board with that, first team all the way, and get the silverware in the bag. The Irish Independent this morning, Bullish Jones says England squad is very capable of beating Ireland. That's Rory O'Connor, who'll be with us a little bit later, not to talk rugby this morning. That's the Irish Independent this morning, and also that shot of Martin O'Neill there. Roy can help make Forest great again. Writes Dan MacDonald, who was over at that opening press conference yesterday. That's the Irish Independent today. The Times Ireland edition, O'Neill, I can adapt to the modern game. This is again just more reflections on that. And Damien Lawler, opposition to the hand pass rule gathers pace. The 3 hand passes and release it rule. I mean, I don't think we can call it the controversial rule just yet, but it's certainly headed in that direction. The Irish Times, meanwhile, this is a squad to beat Ireland. Jones throws down the gauntlet. This is another line out of that Eddie Jones press conference yesterday. That's rugby all the way, of course, in the Irish Times this morning. And then on the Irish Examiner, the price is right, question mark. GA bosses planning admission hikes for league campaign. That's the Irish Examiner this morning.
Should mention as well that we hope Jerome Quinn's camera gets fixed, because I think they're actually live streaming 8 games across the Electric Ireland, Fitzgibbon and Sigerson Cup.
I presume it was just a GoPro or something, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
150 quid jobby.
Back page of the Herald, is Roy still my first choice? Nottingham boss O'Neill talks of his Irish impact at Euro 2016, and now we're enjoying it, says Paul Pogba, speaking about his new experience at Manchester United. Speaking of his old experience at Manchester United, the back of the Sun says, I'll be back on top, Mourinho's vow after Manchester United flop. Now, Jose Mourinho has a gagging order with Manchester United in terms of not being able to speak about his previous situation there. So he spoke in code, really, on his first game doing the Asian Cup for beIN Sports yesterday, and there was some sort of veiled dig at players who have a little bit too much power in the dressing room. Now, I have no idea who that player could be that might have wielded a bit too much power in the Manchester United dressing room, so thank God for that gagging order. Back page of the Irish Daily Star is No Rush and Roy. Keen focus is on Il Dad, and Now for Glory is Andy Robertson there, who's signed a new 5-year deal at Liverpool. Also as well there on the back of the Star, you've got Marcus Rashford set to double his money in a new Manchester United deal worth €170,000 a week. And that is the lead on the back of the Mirror. Cashford, United set to double strikers' wages to €150k a week to scare off summer bids. You've also got Jamie Vardy there dressed as Spider-Man. There's a spider in the Foxes camp, says the headline there.
I saw that yesterday with a photograph, and it was like, who's this that's turned up to training in Spider-Man suit? I didn't need to even check the name. You just knew who it was straight off the bat.
Really?
Aye, absolutely.
You knew that Jamie Vardy was a jokester of the Leicester camp?
Jokester.
I don't know. Yeah, anyway. Back page of The Guardian is player power. United not ready for modern football, says Jose Mourinho. And then finally, the back page of the Racing Post. Free scoring Canaries can keep hitting the high notes. It's Norwich against Birmingham. It's in the Championship and it kicks off at 7:45 this evening.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for that for the minute.